Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I have a flip through of my latest altered book. If it looks a little familiar to some of you, it's because about 6 weeks ago I did a preliminary flip through when I was just starting to prepare my pages. Today I want to it's finished, and I want to go throughout them page by page and talk about the paper ephemera that's inside, as well as the techniques that I've used. Collage, mixed media. If you like altered books, book arts, vintage paper, and journal arts, please subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post every Friday. This is in a vintage book. It's Routledge's 20th Century Temperance Entertainer. I often alter the covers of my books, but this one was pretty nigh on perfect, so I left it, and it is a little bit beat up. But you would be too if you were 110 years old. Inside the first page, I put down a background from a vintage French encyclopedia. And if you've seen my videos, my layouts, you know that I really don't want to have page. I want this to be one canvas. One of the ways that you can do that you can draw the viewer's eye to see this as one whole thing, is to add a border. And this is what I've done here is taken a handwritten document and rough tore it, inked up the edges, pulled it all the way across. And she's also kind of sitting on it, so it's like a little bit of a perch. She's from a book called The Girl's Own Paper. I use that a lot. It came out every year. It was an annual from the 1880s to, I think, the 1950s. And so I really like the ones from the 1870s and the 1880s because they have these beautiful bells and their costumes. I very lightly hand tinted this with a watercolor wash because I wanted to add some interest, but also to very subtly pick up the blue in her with the blue in the bird. Also, collage-wise, look at this. I like the fact that they both have a vertical posture to them. So that's mirroring each other, this vertical. Oh, and I've added some mark making with orange ink to pick up the butterfly. Over here, I have two pockets. I've made these pockets out of vintage French postcards. This one is from 1908, and this one is from 1906. It's got the postmarks. On top of them, I've added two bird engravings from a textbook from 1912. It was natural history kind of thing. And sometimes in my altered books, I love my pockets, and I love to fill them up with old little bits of paper things so that the book almost becomes a vintage paper museum kind of thing. Over here, I have a vintage French holy card. The colors are gorgeous. It's from 1930. And also a playing card, Lucky 13. It's also French from the 1870s, and these people are at a party. I have no idea how to play this card game. Over here is a tiny calling card. My kindest regards, Addie Jameson. And another French holy card with this sweet Madonna, and it's from 1918. So this would have been during World War I. Over here is a collage that I've made out of 3 separate books. I cut these poppies, and I wanted to use them to anchor this part of the page, since this part is also very heavy. I hand tinted, again using some watercolor, these poppies. And this is a hummingbird, again from that textbook from 1912. She's from the Girl's Own Paper. She's just a sweet gardener, and she's reading a letter. I love images where the people are reading a letter or a book. Let's see. This background I made starting with some tissue paper that I found at the bookstore. I love working with tissue paper. It's inexpensive and you can do a lot of stuff with it. It also, when you get it wet, when you get the adhesive on it, it goes translucent. So what's left is you can see the flowers that were in it very clearly, but you can also see the text underneath the tissue paper now. It was a little bit floaty, so I decided to anchor it by adding another rough torn border. This is from a book of vintage British wildflowers. It's very thistly. Let's see. She's from a coffee table book of sacred art. And again, she's reading a book, so there's that theme. Whenever I go to a flea market or a rummage sale or a used book sale, I'm always looking for coffee table books of art because they will usually have a ton of stuff that you can use in different ways and in your art journals and your altered work. This is another pocket. And when I take out this card, you can now see the whole butterfly going off the page. And I like this postcard because it's got the flower petals have the blues and the plummy colors as well. So it really picks all of those up. Over here is another collage made of two separate elements. I like the way that all three of the main focal point characters have very soulful eyes. And I think that the eye very subtly picks this up in a triangular pattern that helps pull these two pages together into one page. It needed a little something, a little oomph, so I've gone round all the edges with a Derwent chunky graphite stick. It looks like this, except I used a gray one that I have now put away. And they smudge, so I just drew all the way around the edges and then smudged like crazy. And that makes a bit of a frame, again, holding the page together. Over here, I have talked about this layout before. Every viewer will see a collage like this, and it will tell everybody a different story, a different narrative. But for me, as I was making it, I came to this idea that this lovely, demure young woman in her empire waist gown is actually throwing the cosmos over her shoulder with her little delicate gloved hands. And good for her. I feel that way sometimes. Over here, these guys are alarmed. And because of that, they told her that she was mad. I got this from a children's novelization of Peter Pan. And sometimes if you get old children's books, young adult books, more or less, they will have a larger size text. And so they make great found captions. Over here is the background that I put down is from a handwritten French receipt. You see the numbers there where they've done some accounts. And just a cathedral. And again, she's from a coffee table book of sacred art. To embellish the page down here and to pick up the blues, I used a stencil with a watered down acrylic paint. And I wanted it to be messy like this because that sort of gives the peeling fresco, peeling wallpaper look that I really have a thing about a lot. Which is why I added this top border. Again, using the Derwent chunky graphite sticks, but this one is in blue just colored it and then spritzed like crazy because they are water soluble. So when this water soluble graphite got very wet, I was able to work with it and make it messy on the page. Here I have a pocket that I made by gluing this page to this page. Inside of the pocket is a Christmas card. It doesn't have a date, but the lot that I bought it with were mostly from around 1903, 1908. So it's got a little ribbon here holding it together. And inside, I've altered the card itself. I've added another border of those wildflowers, and perched on that are some different birds. So you have an altered card with a peacock inside of an altered book. If this was your book, you could, of course, take out this ephemera, use it in some other project of your own, and replace it with some tags or whatnot that you've made. Let's see. This background was from an old family Bible, and the covers were off it when I got it. It was in poor shape, so I felt like I had permission to take this thing apart. And this would have been from a page of the family tree. This is marriages. So you would have written in here the names of couples who got married. And so your family would have a record of that for generations. I wanted to bring out this, the colors of this, what is it? Is it a peony? It's beautiful. And I wanted to pull out some of that pinky color. So I've added a little bit of hand tinting with a watercolor that's connecting here. She is from 1883, and yes, she does have a bird in her hat, so I gave her a little bird to scold her or laugh at her. I don't know. Could you? This background is from a 1920s Japanese woodblock page. If this is upside down or the wrong way around, I apologize. Every time I post something using the Japanese calligraphy, I get comments saying, "Hey dummy, it's backwards." Sorry. It's on a kind of a rice paper that, again, when you put it down like the tissue paper, you can still see the text very subtly underneath. Over here, I used, this flower came from a book that I use a lot called Mr. Marshall's Flower Book. And I just, this spring, when I was working on this, really needed a lot of yellow in my life. So I used this and then found another piece of art here where the gold in her cape is picked up by the gold over here. More of those wildflowers. I rough tore those and just made like over here, a diagonal vertical border. And then I've added a little yellow mark making. This is with some soft pastel and stencil work. These are also pockets that are made by gluing the pages together themselves. And I have a tutorial just on how to prepare your altered books with making pockets with gluing the pages to themselves. There's a link to that in the text if you want to try that technique yourself. Inside this pocket is an old handwritten French letter. It's from the Loire, and it's from 1859. This style of letter is called a wrapper because none of these fancy newfangled envelopes, thank you so very much. You would write your note and then wrap it back up. Seal it with some wax, and there you go. Over here, I've put an old postcard. He's from around the turn of the 20th century, and you know what? He's actually rolling a hoop. He's got a sailor costume, and he's got a hoop. That's so cute. But I also kind of like his expression when you pull him out over here, because I kind of feel like he's saying, Mom, you're embarrassing me. But it's still a cute card. Over here, I have 2 vintage cards. Again, these are going to be from around 1907-ish. And this had a little bit of filigree, so you can see some of the text underneath. Over here, this card actually has a little ribbon and another ribbon here. So it's got a lot of texture, does this card. These are some lilacs. And inside the card, I've added a carte de visite. It's a baby cabinet card. And she's got these gorgeous mutton chop sleeves. There is another page. It says to and from. I haven't added anything to it. You could alter it yourself if you wanted to add something there. I did want to pick up that purple, that violet color a little bit more, so I've gone around the entire page with a soft chalk pastel in a plummy color. And I activated that with a little bit of water on a brush. Just kind of painted that, and then it got a nice and messy there. Over here, very black and white, but I love this page. This is actually from a textbook about funguses, mushrooms, and whatnot from the 1890s. I kind of think it's meant to go like this, but what the heck. I just turned it into a mushroom chandelier. Over here, I think from the caption that they are supposed to be waiting outside a church for a couple that's getting married, and they're going to throw these flower petals on them. But out of context, I think it looks like they're definitely looking through this mysterious archway. Dun, dun, dun. We don't know what they're looking at, but it could be kind of spooky or mysterious. To draw the eye across, it's a lot going on here. It's a busy layout. I wanted to give a little bit of a holistic bit by, again, rough tearing some handwritten French letters from 1902. And then I drizzled some handmade acorn ink. Just messed it about like that for a little bit of a border. Finally, I went vertical again with some of that French encyclopedia page. Just a little bit vertical border there to add some contrast to this flower rather than just putting it on a blank page. Over here I have, these are from a field guide of butterflies. And what I did was I took this page and I cut away everything on the top and just cut into the butterflies so that they are now a pocket by gluing these edges down but leaving the top open. Got some stencil work here. And inside of this pocket is an old envelope with a raised stamp. And inside of that is another cabinet card. Carte de visite. And this little tyke has button boots and some lace bloomers there. So that is pretty charming. Okay, if you would like to see some still photos of this book, you can make a bigger resolution of and see the details, maybe get some inspiration. There's a link to this book in the text below this video. You could also buy it. It's going to be for sale there. If you like altered books and whatnot, old paper, I have a monthly online newsletter. And if you go to my website, again, the link is below, you can subscribe and join that newsletter. It has free scans of old paper, holy cards, birds, whatnot. It's also got a little bit of fashion, some history, and giveaways, so please subscribe. It will be fun, I hope. Okay, until next Friday, let me know if you have any comments or questions, any feedback. Let's compare notes. And I will see you later. Happy making.